Welcome to Truth Stream. Today we are here with the fabulous Lois Hermann, and she has a very unique and intriguing background, and we're very excited today. She's going to tie things together. I know we've been talking about certain things on our show with Daryl and another gentleman that went by the name of Enoch, reptilian type stuff. I know that some of this is a little, scary to some of you, and Lois is here to provide clarity and help navigate these strange times. Let's put it that way. Lois, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for doing what you do and for inviting me to be here chatting with you.
Yes, and Lois is part of the Truth Tour. We've met many amazing people on that, and Lois, let's start with your background so people can understand that, and then we'll go into some more of the woo-woo stuff, shall we? Please.
Sure. Thank you so much. I do like to start with that because I come from a 40-year background in diagnostic imaging in medicine. I was a pioneer in the field of ultrasound, and I actually have patents. I'm named on patents for systems design. I worked as a clinical investigation expert working with the amazing engineers to develop ultrasound products and traveled internationally for clinical investigation. So I have a strong background in sound technology, ultrasound. So I know a lot about frequency, vibrational frequency, and the energy, piezoelectric energy, all of that. I mean, I was a teacher, a corporate trainer in that. So I have a real strong foundation in sound. And I also transferred to take a job with Hewlett Packard and moved into a house with a ghost. And my life has never been the same.
Well, that's okay. That probably gives the viewers a little insight. So how did you start delving into more of what you're into now? And as we chat, people will hear more about what that is. But let's hear the transition, if you will.
So the transition actually started before I moved into the house with a ghost. I was married to what I now know, somebody who was into dark magic. And I had a priest back in the 90s teach me how to use protection because I could be sitting, I was a corporate a supervisor of CT, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, a large imaging department, be sitting at my desk and I could feel electrical zings go down my back. People have the power, if they focus it, to send amazing positive energy through prayer. There are also people who have the power to send amazing negative energy. It's real. And so I learned that very quickly, this was as I was attempting to depart from this relationship, that I knew he had incredible power, which was what kept me ensnared in that relationship a long time. But I consulted a priest who taught me how to protect and deflect energy. So I've been deflecting energy for years. And this is one of the reasons I came out on the Truth Tour is nobody's talking about protection. And Archangel Michael, even in my very first channeled session with Archangel Michael, he told me, you must ask for protection first, then healing, then empowerment across all levels. And at the time, he named these levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, psychic, social, professional, financial, environmental, relational, political, and you can keep going. So imagine if we were protected, healed, and empowered across all those levels. And at the time, I thought, yeah, I know I need to protect from some of the stuff that's being sent, but I didn't realize until the past several years how critical it is for us to protect our energy. Why? Because we're energy generators. Our physical human body, we are energy generators and receivers. We project and we receive. And we need to recognize how to balance that, how to protect it, how to rev up our energy, how to tone it down. We need to control our energetic being. And I can get into a bunch of different levels at that point. But what happened was when I moved up here I live in New England. When I moved to New England, I moved into a house, like I said, with a ghost. My daughter was very young, and she started telling me about a lady that would come and sing to her at night. She wasn't afraid, but this lady would sing to her. And I'm thinking, okay, this is very strange. And I started talking with a neighbor about this lady, and she says, "Oh my gosh, that sounds like Judy." I said, "So who's Judy?" And she said, "Well, you know the house you're renting. This was a lovely neighborhood. I'm renting from this gentleman. His former wife was a brilliant mathematician, and she was so brutally abused by him that her way out was to shoot herself in the head in my basement. And she had a daughter who was my daughter's age.
Oh, man.
So she was mistaking my daughter for hers, and that's why she was coming to sing to my daughter. So I'm thinking, okay, my heart goes out to her, but what do I do with the ghost in my house? What would you do with the ghost in your house? So she said, "Oh, you need to consult. There's a woman, our neighbor across the street is a healer, and there's a chaplain from Catholic Medical Center, a priest that comes and visits her on a regular basis. Maybe you should have them come over and clear your house." So sure enough, I arranged, there's a whole nother story behind that, but I did that. They came over, had a lovely dinner, and they said, "Yes, this does sound like Judy." And then they got out to leave. I'm like, "Wait a minute, aren't you gonna like sprinkle holy water or something?" And they said, "We've been given guidance that you need to learn how to do this." I said, "Me? What? I've probably excommunicated, I'm not, I, so what, but I'm really good at following directions." So they taught me what to do. I sat at the top of the stairs, lit a candle, and I had an imaginary conversation with Judy. And I said, "Judy, this is my daughter. Your daughter has passed over. Or I'm sorry, your daughter is grown and she's fine. And it's time for you to go into the light." And I felt some, I call it now God bumps. I felt some chills, blew out the candle, went to bed. A couple days later, I asked my daughter, "So does the lady still come and sing to you at night?" And she said, "No, but there's a little boy." Then there
Oh,
was a soldier, and then
that just gave me chills.
They're lining up now.
yeah, so she could see, sense, and feel them. And then I would have these imaginary conversations with them. That's all I knew what to do. So I went on to learn hypnosis from Agnes and learned, I got very involved with A Course in Miracles, a spiritual study path. And that started my process of delving into angels and metaphysics and spirits. And so when I learned hypnosis, my fascination was for past lives and spirit lives and all that. So that's how here I am concurrently. I retired as director of clinical services. So I've got this one life, and then I have my metaphysical life concurrently at the same time. And 10 years ago, I retired from my corporate life, and that's a whole nother story, to pursue my passion, and that is spiritual based hypnosis.
Wow. And we can show your books later or whenever it's
Yeah.
appropriate. But you're also an author, and you've written how many books now? Is it 4?
4. And there's a whole nother story behind the first book I wrote, The Spirits of Amaskake, and it's about children. This is my passion, and I've long had a passion for having to rescue my own children from a very toxic relationship. I had to learn what I needed to do to help them because I was a single mom, no support. I actually disappeared and reappeared under a new name in order to get away from a very, very extremely toxic relationship. So it was that bad.
Wow.
And blessed by the courts, I sanctioned by the courts. So anyway, so then here I move into the house with the ghost. Fast forward, I am doing spiritual based hypnosis. And I had a friend who who hired me to come and investigate the deaths at an assisted living facility outside of Manchester, New Hampshire. Now, Manchester is very well known for a mile-long mill building. This mills was the highest producer of fabric in its era, and it was amazing. Well, this assisted living facility was maybe about a mile from the old mill buildings, and in this facility, there were 40 employees. And in a 2-year period, they had attended 10 funerals of their family members. None of the elderly had died. Now, statistically, that's insane. And at the 10th funeral, they're standing there going, "What the heck is going on here?" So they hired me to investigate. Now I consider myself, I'm FedEx. I'm the spirit whisperer, but I just help them. And it's like helping a child that's lost in the woods to find his way home. It's as simple as that. Most of the time, they're just lost souls. Okay. So I go into this facility, and the woman who hired me went into trance, an altered state, a trance state, where, if you wanted to connect with your grandmother or your guardian angel, you do that. I'm the guide, the scribe, and the protector. I'm the logician. I'm standing grounded, asking the questions. Columbo is my hero, just so you know. Anyway, so we identify that there were over 300 spirits that were trying to get their attention. And these were the spirits mostly of young boys who worked in the mills. And what had happened is back in the 1800s, now think about this, these are hydro-powered equipment, huge, big equipment, no on-off switches, it's all water power. And they would use the young boys to grow into the equipment to oil and to mend. And they were really good at what they did, but over time, guess what young boys do? They grow. And if they were injured, they were considered expendable. They were taken in the basement, euthanized, put in barrels, taken out in the middle of the night, and dumped. A carcass was put over their body, and their mother would be told they ran away. So now mom is out. She's mourning the death of her son. She's out the income from her son, and she's publicly humiliated for having a runaway. So these boys, when they came through in that session, they were saying, we're company men. How dare they shame us? How dare they do that to our mothers? We were doing our job. And so that's why they were causing the accidents. It was very interesting. And so I spoke with the oldest among them. He was like 33. And he said, I will take them into the light if you promise to tell our story. Well, I did. This was back in 2003, and I recorded everything on audio tape back then,
Right.
So I recorded everything, proceeded to investigate it, and the woman who hired me left and took another job. And everything just kind of went fallow. Fast forward 10 years, life gets in the way. I now am back doing my hypnosis work again. And are you familiar with BNI, Business Networking International? It's a very corporate kind of meeting where different business types of people come together, electricians, bankers, and then it's a referral network group.
We are now.
Okay. So I'm at a business meeting, and this gentleman comes up to me and he says, I need your help to get back into the job market. Do you deal with baggage? And the way he spoke, I knew exactly what he was talking about. So I take him on, and he gets a job, vice president of sales. And he said, I can't afford your full rate, but I'm told I'm supposed to help you write a book. Well, let me tell you, I have so many amazing stories from my clients that I could fill a miniseries. So I take him on. He gets a job, vice president of sales. He's doing great. I fell and broke my wrist. And in my meditation, I hear this little voice say, what about our story? You promised. I went, holy cow, I did. So then when I saw Peter next, I said, let's see what story we're supposed to tell. He goes into trance, bang, he's in the middle of the mills. And what was magical, he could describe the smell and the lint in the air and the hard to see and the sounds and everything. He described so much detail of what he experienced in the mill. And what we thought was we were going to be getting more of the children's stories, and that's not what happened. What happened, because we were just setting the intention, tell us what you want us to share in your stories. The man who had to kill the children came forward to talk about how horrible it was that he had to do this. The wife of the superintendent, who was so angry, you've got to stop this. So it was interesting that what was called the great unspeakable, affected people across all walks of life. And so it was very interesting. And the detective in me wanted to prove this. How can you prove the spiritual stuff? So Archangel Michael says, prove who owned the land. So I had investigated, I've restored old buildings in my past, I've done a lot of land investigation work. So Peter and I investigated from current day back in time to where the deeds all the way back, and we discovered who owned the land. But I didn't want to be the one saying that. So I actually hired a legal firm to investigate who owned the land, starting from the original deeds coming forward. And we met in the middle. The land was owned by Amoskeag Manufacturing Company, the mills. So that to me proved it. And then Archangel Michael pretty much said, you've done your job. You need to just tell the story. So that's the spirits of Amoskeag, the wounded heroes of the Manchester Mills. And it was it was originally going to be the wounded children, but I realized that it was more than the children that were affected. They were all walks of life, all of society was affected by the great unspeakable. So,
Wow.
Now, we've had a gentleman on our show a few times, and his name is Nick Sylvester.
oh, he's my buddy.
So now I heard he had an impact on you and what you're now writing about and studying. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
People love
Guilty as
Nick Harsh.
charged.
So we'd love to hear more about that, unless you have anything else right now. Okay, please go right ahead about Nick.
So I have to fast forward. That was the first book, and then do you want me to tell you about the Chronicles? Because that's what got me to meet Nick.
Absolutely, please. Yeah.
Okay. So then fast forward, after this, I had to come out of the closet as a spirit whisperer because I'd had a coach that said, don't tell anybody about the weird spirit stuff you do. I was only marketing weight, smoking, stress. So then I have this gentleman who comes in to see me for sleep issues. Can help anybody with different patterns that they have. And he was a senior scientist, and he goes into trance. Now, as I said, if you wanted to talk to your family, archangels, angels, whatever, you do that. I'm just taking notes. He goes into trance, opens his eyes, looks me square in the face, and says, we need your help to save humanity. Humanity is facing the next great apocalypse. If they don't change their ways, there may not be much time left. 6 pages of my scribbled notes later, he comes out of trance, and I said, what did you think of that? He said, it was very relaxing. So the next time he comes,
this was, how long ago was this?
That was October 2016.
Okay, trying to get the time.
Sounds about right.
Go right ahead.
So this book was published in 2015, and so then following fall. So I said the next time he came in, I said, do you mind if I turn a little recording app on my phone just in case whoever this is comes back again? Sure. And he said, sure. So 22 sessions later, we have the making of 3 books. And what I did is I actually brought Peter back in because he had the ability to see. I wanted to make sure that whoever this wasn't something up to mischief, that this was pure light, because discernment is key. That's really important. People who channel, you've got to be careful who you channel, because if you just say, somebody help me, somebody will help you, but it may not be positive energy. So I brought Peter in the book, he's called Paul, to validate. And sure enough, what would happen is Gary, the gentleman who was doing the inadvertent channel, his spirit would leave and this bright light would come in. So we had, so the first book, the Chronicles, the On Quietus, are the first ones, and they were all about 8s. And I know you said something about gene decode. When you read this book, everything they do is in multiples of 8s. And it's, if they're talking about, 10 million years, it's 8 to the 1th, whatever power. So everything is in multiples of 8. So it's very strange. It's almost as if there's a code in the book that I am clueless about. So that was another thing that, since I've been on this journey, I'm thinking, at the time I thought something's odd with these numbers. So somebody needs to take a look at that. But
I wonder if that has anything to do with the 8th sphere, with Steiner's work. I don't know if you've looked into Anthropophis. I can't pronounce it now. I'm just going to give up. No, Prophecy. There we go. Well, we can put those two together. A little tongue-tied. Yeah, but there may be a relationship there between the 8th sphere and contents of that book. We can get into that later.
Very cool.
Yeah, they were 8 and they were 1. They were the ancient ones. They were the first ones. So, and they were more like historians. They were distant. They were historians, and so what they said is, let us send So imagine if you could have, you're interviewing people. If you could interview God, what would you ask? I started watching things on the TV, on cosmic consciousness and all these different things to try ancient aliens, to try and see what questions do people want to know. This is all new to me. Yes, I have been dealing with, as we're talking, call them reptilians for years. I just called them lizard people. They were nasty. They were ugly. Get them out of here. I didn't really know what they were. They just did not belong here. So anyway, these ones talked a lot about protection and about frequency, vibration, energy, and they were really intent on shifting the vibrational energy of the planet, that it is up to us humans to shift our frequency, therefore to elevate the frequency of the planet. So they were very technical. The ancient ones were very technical, non-emotional, just very, very matter of fact. So then they said, let us send you our children and our children's children who are lower vibrational energies, but are still high vibration. So for instance, their children would be the gods of mythology, what we now call archangels. They do not incorporate, they cannot lower their vibration enough to incorporate into human form, but they've always been around us, helping us. So their children's children would be the Jesus level that could incorporate, that could lower their energy enough to come into corporeal form and be here to bring messages. Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Gary was that.
Wow.
His whole mission was to be the conduit for these messages to me as the scribe, and then he was to exit. So the second book is the Chronicles of Hope. The green book is about his more healing. And this Jesus comes through saying, what happened to my message? It was a simple message of compassion and brotherly love. What happened? Maybe I should have come later. Maybe he was really beside himself. Now, I work a lot with Jesus. I work with all the different archangels, and Jesus is a beloved, amazing guide that he always comes through and says, enjoy the beauty of love, of life, of everything on your planet. He's always so benevolent. It was heartbreaking for me to see him lower his vibrational frequency enough to come into the human form. And therefore he felt the emotion of that human emotion. When they're in that elevated form, they're so ethereal, they're just pure. But when you lower into human form, it gets kind of ucky-mucky. It's a lot denser. We're denser here. So he was really heartbroken. But what we ended up doing was, we've got Jesus's top 40 in here. But what's really interesting? I just learned this. I'm always learning from the people on the Truth Tour. His first message was, first, do no harm. And I didn't know this. All these years I was in medicine, that was taken out of the Hippocratic Oath in 1972. Did you know that?
Well, it certainly makes sense as to what we've seen playing out, because that's what they've done. They've taken the number one thing, and that's what, oh my gosh, wow.
Like serve and protect is no longer a part of policing.
Yeah. And so that was we learned that on Friday at the Truth Tour. And what happened in 1972?
72. I'm not sure. I know the gold standard was 71.
71. Yeah.
Roe v. Wade.
Right. Yep.
So that was the year that they took out, first, do no harm out of the Hippocratic Oath.
Wow.
Interesting. The dominoes are all, it's amazing how all these things factor together now, don't they?
Well, we learned so much. There's a woman, I'm not going to say her name, but she reached out to me. When she heard about the reptilians, she said, holy SHIT, Joe, how can this stuff be of God? I don't understand it. So I don't know if you have any insight for her. Like, she's just really struggling with how, well, I don't need to say anything. I mean, I've said it. So what do you say to someone like that?
So the reptilians have been around for a long time. And again, just like the archangels, this goes back to Cain and Abel. This goes back, these are the serpentines. They go back to Cain and Abel. This is what I have discovered. Again, I am not learned like Nick. when Nick came into my life, he's Mr. Cosmos. He has studied, he is brilliant in this. I'm just simple me asking questions, and I'm interviewing the reptilians. So what happened was, so let me just finish with the books, and then I want to introduce the thing with Nick. So the third book of the archangels, and this is what got me on the truth tour. The archangel Azrael came through and said, you guys have messed up your world. You've got to wake up and take action. You just sit back and you've let the evil take over. And they were right. Here's the archangels saying we would never consider becoming involved in such a thing, but there's a time right now to reverse this trend where you've just let go of everything that's important in your world. And she was right. So then Archangel Raphael came in, Archangel Samuel, Archangel Michael. So this book is a take action book. The archangels are not featherweights. They're like, step up. You've got to step up. So that was when I realized, when I first started scribing this, I'm thinking we've got 50, 100 years in the future. When COVID hit, I was in the middle of writing book 2 and scribing the sessions from Azrael, or the archangels. I'm thinking, holy canola, this is happening now. So that's why I was passionate about getting these messages, because they're not for me. I live by them, but these are messages for humanity. So I go out on the truth tour, but what I was out on the truth tour about is when we do session work, we look for spirits based on looking at the auras. We read the auras. That's what we do. Are you familiar with what an aura is? The energy around somebody?
Yeah.
2021, the aura has changed. What happened in 2021?
And we'll try and keep this on YouTube. So maybe some of the.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah,
so,
people know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so all of a sudden, people no longer could see their auras when they went into trance. But my team that I had developed, worked with, that are brilliant psychic mediums, they're able to see, why are the auras mucky and muddy and brown, and they've got metallic flecks? Oh, look how sparkly. And Mother Guy says, those sparkles do not belong in your aura. Most of that does not belong in my aura energy field either. That's artificial. Stuff is being introduced into your organic human body that is not supposed to be there. Oh, we're really reading about people drinking their pine needle tea, but nobody's talking about cleaning their aura. I mean, our human bodies are this big. Our real spiritual body is this big. The physical body is just the driver, what we drive through, but nobody's cleaning their aura. And we saw.
This affected not only people that got but people who did as well, right?
Transmission is absolutely real. Okay. We can clear the aura, but if you're around a bunch of people, you need to clear your energy. We've seen it. So people who have the orange stripes and the Morgellons, the orange stripe, that's the graphene oxide. Then we would see what are called Morgellons, the hydras. We're like, we call them squidlies. We're just simple, what are those squiddly things? Look like little squids. And then we start reading about the Morgellons. Oh my gosh, we see them, and they park in the person's most vulnerable spot. So we came out talking about this. Then I met Nick, and he says, "So you see these reptilians?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're not. I don't see physical. Okay, everything. This is interdimensional." And he says, "Have you ever asked them what they do to people?" I said, "No, I'm just the shipping department. They're nasty. They're ugly. They're out of here." He said, there are millions of people who have been abducted and they don't know what happened to them. Their mind has been wiped. So what if you were to ask them? I'm like, sure. So we started asking the reptilians when we would capture them. And holy cow, this year has been turned upside down for me. Wow. Because what we've found is that the reptilians have been, so to speaking to this woman that was so concerned, the church might call them demons. They're called by various different names, and they are, Nick would give you the true cosmic stuff. What I can give you is what we've encountered. Now, if we were to have Anna, Christine, or Mary on the show, they can tell you what they experience. Because again, I'm asking the questions, I'm scribing, they're smelling the stench. They're seeing this vile, nasty, I mean, they have experienced it, and they're relaying to me what they're sensing and seeing. So the reptilians are the kind of the generals, if you will, in the hierarchy. They're high up in charge. The tall grays work with the reptilians, but they are the ones that are the managers, the overseers. And the small grays, they're very clear that they are small grays. They were slaves. They were captured because they are more energetically matched to humans. So they're the ones that have been putting the devices and the implants in the humans.
So would
And
the small grays also be, we had Daryl James on the show and Donald Marshall talks about that. Who are the vril with the proboscis that goes and they can go in through the eye? Would that be the small gray?
that is not the small grays.
Okay.
That's something different.
Just want to clarify. Okay, keep going. I don't want to.
Well, we've encountered multiple, probably 20 different types of ETs. And I'll talk with Nick and he'll identify them. Oh, that's one of these, or that's one of the, he sent me pictures. I don't know. I mean, just they'll describe the differences. But the small grays, what happened was in the process of finding devices and well, we had a client that we were working with, and there was a Nazi scientist who was in the shadows. She was having massive headaches and stuff going on, and what was around her was this scientist. So he was not much help. So we sent him packing with Archangel Michael to a place to be held accountable for his crimes against humanity. But the small gray was the one who was the genius that created the device. And he was so proud of us as a coil, and this is what it does. And I'm like, really? Tell me about that. Fascinating. Tell me more. So I'm getting him to talk about this device that he created that would cause images to flash in their mind, and then it would shift, and it would cause them to, and if you did it certain things with it, it would cause them to have shocks and different things. And so once he finally exhausted everything about how fascinating this thing was, I said, so you really intended to hurt people? And he stopped and he said, well, I didn't really mean to, but that was just my job. And I said, well, but do you want to continue hurting people? And he said, if I have a choice, no. And I said, well, you're going to have to be accountable for what you've done. And it'll go a long way toward your ultimate healing if you can reverse what you've done. And he said, I have a choice. And I said, yes, you have a choice. And he said, yeah, then I would like to do that. And what happened over a period of time is this small gray, who we named him Meter, has become our biggest ally. And his family was killed in order to make him do what he was called to do. They were captives and they were in servitude, and if they didn't do it, they were tortured. So they're the ones that were putting the devices in the humans. And they were also the genius that created the devices, not the reptilians, not the tall grays. They were just the bullies, if you will, that were managing these small grays. So when we would identify a device, so for instance, in this client, she had a coil in her.
And how would that have been put into her? Would she be aware of it, or?
No, she wasn't, excuse me.
Yeah.
We would ask, most of the time, the coils, the devices were put in a ship, and they were taken into a ship, and there was a holographic image left in the bed. So if the mother saw it, the mother would see a holographic image. Most of these devices were put in between the ages of 2 and 3.
So were the children physically abducted, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
They were most of them were physically put in. Later devices were put in their beds, or we've also identified some that were put in military institutions. But most of what we've uncovered, they were taken into a ship, the device was put in. So what we discovered is you can't just deactivate the device, because Meter, these small grays, are monitoring them. And if the device goes haywire, they are accountable, and then they will do something to put another device in or to activate it. So we were identifying by the hundreds and thousands. So we've been clearing these devices around the world for the past year, because once we identify the commander, reptilian, he now must command all in his command to come forward.
So would there be physical in like 3D devices, or is this
sometimes?
wow.
But they're ET technology and ET materials, so they're not necessarily seen in our types of imaging media.
Okay.
Just like my amazing intuitives, they can see some of them, but they can't see all of them. We always bring in Meter. We also have another ET that works with us named Mo, but he comes in and he will do a full scan to look for devices. And we've encountered numerous different types of devices that have all been based on projects that have gone on since the Nazis. And these were beta tests. The ultimate goal is to have devices that can be used to control humanity. So these were the devices that were being tested, and what they were tested on the brightest lights, the brightest beings that were coming in. And the reptilians were able to gauge the brightness of the energy of people as they were, some of them in utero, but they could gauge that this is a bright one at age, between age 2 and 3. We've got to take, and many times the device was not intended to kill, but to lower the vibration.
Oh. I think Scott has a quick question.
I have a few questions for off camera.
Sorry.
I've often heard of the small grays being described as humans from another timeline that had followed the transhumanist ideology all the way to the end, where they became effectively hardly even biological, in some cases not biological at all anymore, based on those practices. And then I imagine the enslavement happened, towards the end of that process. But have you heard anything, or have they indicated to you in any way that their origins?
That is a question I have not asked. What I have discerned is that many of them said that their planet is no longer available. Their planet was destroyed. Right. So they had nowhere to go. Some of them, so I would give them choices, because we've rescued thousands of these small grays now, and we would give them choice. We would tell them, you are now free. You have a choice you can stay here and work with Archangel Michael. He's going to oversee you. You can work with Meter to help deactivate the devices in the humans, or you can return to where you came from. And many of them said, we have no home. So I have not heard that myself specifically. That doesn't mean it's not true. It's just that's not a question I have asked.
Right. And then one other question. When you work with them, it's not like they're physically there, is it?
It's all in the fourth and fifth.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, because I'm picturing you kicking it with a little alien. The audience is like, where do we watch this happen? So, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead.
And what's interesting is when Meter first showed up, Christine, she's like, he's slimy looking. I don't want to talk to him. I'm like, Christine, you're safe. It's okay. You can talk to him. She'll tell you the story. And then when she started talking to him and he started changing, when I have them look for the light inside of them, and he started changing right before her eyes, and the slimy, icky, and he started crying, was feeling very much remorseful for what he had done to so many people. And he was determined,
kind of like a gremlin and a mogwai, kind of how they
changed, and he started glowing. So as over time working with us, he started glowing more and more. And at one particular point, now when we're dealing with the reptilians, they're unpredictable, they're nasty, and they can spit at you and throw stuff at you. And this one reptilian, now imagine in that imaginary world, it's a big, nasty, ugly, smelly thing. And here's this little bitty gray, and he stepped in front to protect Christine. And Archangel Michael gave him a sword. He is so proud of his sword. So every time he comes through, he's got my sword, and it's just adorable. But he is, it's amazing. Our sessions are kind of like a Lord of the Rings chapter.
Well, those stories have to come. Yeah, those stories come from somewhere. I can't believe, like, a few years ago, I wouldn't even believe that I'm having this conversation right now. But please go.
Me too.
Wow. So are we getting into, like, with Nick in the fourth book? Is that kind of where we're at in this?
Yeah, so the trilogy, the Chronicles of Hope, that is complete. Okay. And the next book is going to be called You Can't Make This Shit Up. Because we've been rescuing dragons. You know, inner earth dragons, because the reptilians were stealing their eggs and harboring their eggs under the earth, in these tunnels, in these grottos, and raising their pure dragons to be evil. And that was a whole nother story about the dragons. We've rescued multiple dragons, and now they work with us to protect. So it's just, you just can't, this is fantasy. You can't make this shit up. And we come out of these sessions just shaking our head going, where did that come from? And it's validated because multiple people see it at the same time. That's what's so fascinating, because back in 2020, we started working as a Lightworker Alliance group, where we would have a group of maybe 10 or 12 people get together, and we were rescuing spirits from the dumbs. Again, we are dealing with helping on the spiritual realm. And so these children and others that have been tortured, their spirits are stuck. And so what we've been doing is rescuing them, helping them to a place of healing. So that has been our give back, and helping in various different ways. And in the process, learning so much about this whole unseen world that is very, very real. Very real.
Have you spoken with, because we've had Gene Decode on the show. Yeah. Have you spoken with him about this or not yet?
No, I haven't yet. I have not met him yet.
Well, I'd be happy to send, each other's emails.
It might be fun to have you both on the
show. Yeah.
Sure. I'd love for him to take a look. I can send him book 1. I would love for him to take a look at that because of the codes in there. They're really pretty fascinating. And, again, Gary, the conduit, was a senior scientist. He's a physicist. So his name, he maybe it's just the way that his mind thinks in numbers, but the number sequences were really kind of interesting.
Right. So, well, because part of the the beautiful part of this is connecting other people with each other, because then, like, just like with Scott, when I first heard some of the stuff he was talking about, not that I didn't believe him, but I'm like, I don't hear this from many other people. And if I would have searched on YouTube or whatever, but when you go to the Truth Tour and you meet someone like Lois and Gina and all these amazing people in person, and then you start having these really deep conversations, it is a whole nother level. And so on that subject, who are like Lois and Gina and the people in the Truth Tour? Like, what about their past lives? What makes them us go, okay, we have to talk about this. I know we might sound a little woo-woo, but who are we, if we talk about this stuff?
That's the best part. So what we do with our client sessions now is we say that we're rescuing the light workers, because what we have discovered based on Nick's throwing down the gauntlet, ask questions, they pick the brightest lights, basically all amazing light workers that are from different planets. The Arcturians, the Pleiadians send a delegate here. The Reptilians are like, that's a light worker, that's a starseed. They can tell by the bright lights. Then they dim their light and they are not able to really fully embody their power. That's what the Reptilians were intent to do, is to disempower these amazing beings. People say, when are the extraterrestrials going to be here? We're here now.
Yeah.
We're here now. We're here in physical human form, but we are delegates, feet on the street. When we are aware, we're connecting with our starseed family, and they do the work. We're kind of like the scouts, because we're the barometer. We see what needs to happen. And one of the biggest messages from the archangels is, you must ask. My buddy Brian says, there are millions of unemployed angels out there just waiting to be asked. Because of our free will planet, we just try and struggle along with our own will, but when we ask for help, boom, it's there in an instant. But the problem is you've got to be discerning about who you ask for, because there's a lot of sorcery going on too. So you've got to be very discerning about asking for those of the light. So to answer your question, once we clear the devices from these amazing beings, we get them to connect with their starseed family, and they come through. You're from Lemuria, you're Arcturian. So I get to sit back and I'm privy to these amazing conversations, tearful, joyous conversations, as these beings that have been blocked have an opportunity to connect with their divine source, their family. Most of these people feel like misfits. We don't belong here. I don't belong in my family. The truth to it, this is the first time I actually felt like I belong anywhere, because it's a bunch of
Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I mean, especially him. I mean,
quite a bit. Yeah.
I'm able to, he's bartended too in the past, but yeah, we're able to, I'm able to go and talk with a lot more people, but I have a lot more family where we are and stuff like that. But it has been isolating, and it's very challenging, because I find myself, I don't really hang around people that don't really get this, because it takes so much energy to go, okay, I can talk about this, this, and this, but I can't talk about this and this. And it's just like, that's when I go into my songwriting, and, and I'm able to connect with messages there and stuff like that, because it's so challenging to navigate at times that it's easier to just go, okay, I'm going to go kick over the Star family.
That's right. Because we get each other, and and we're, the other piece is that we're accepting of one another, and we're accepting of the differences. We all have different gifts, and we have to find the gift. Like your gift is songwriting. Your music is inspiring. We need everybody to find what their niche is, because I liken it to the thread in a cloth, the beautiful threads in a tapestry. They've all got to be different, and we're all different. So we're all contributing our unique passion, our gifts. So that ties into your question about the past lives and who are we. What the archangels have said, actually, I back up, it was the Anquietas that said, we're trying to keep the young souls from coming to Earth right now, because there's so much strife on Earth, and the young souls create more strife. Imagine they're like a kid in a candy shop. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, they're just, let's play. But the old souls are the ones that have, even the old souls in young people's bodies are the wizened ones. They know, they have an intuition, they have a knowing of right and wrong.
On that note, like I've never, and I'm the oldest of 6, and I've never had a desire to have children. So would that be part of what we're talking about?
Could be, yes. Yeah, to control the situation, because you have a knowing. So we all have different knowings, and even as a child, you'll have have you ever heard of people who have children who can play a piano, or who have the ability to do complex math? They come in with a knowing from a past life. Those are old souls. They have a knowing. They're here on a mission. They're carrying their information into this life. Oftentimes, what typically when we're born, we pass through that veil and our memory is forgotten, and we have to rebuild. So as we start to grow and we have those deja vu moments, we have those moments of, I know this, then that's part of growing into integrating all of our past life memories. I have partial recall of at least 50 of my past lives. Wow. And because I was fascinated by it, and how you do it is you experience it. But I do know that I had to overcome a lot in order to even have this conversation. I was burned with Joan of Arc at the stake for speaking out. I was hung as a witch for doing that. So I had a lot of problems even sharing. So I had to go back in and heal those wounds in order to say, in this life, I'm called. I don't know whether I volunteered or was conscripted yet, but anyway, that's beside the point. I am here, and I know I am on a mission to bring these messages of hope to humanity. So We're living in amazing times. And what's beautiful about the internet and about COVID causing us to use the internet is we're finding each other. We're finding each other and supporting each other and encouraging each other on this path. Because the other piece that I'll tell you, that I am a daughter of the American Revolution, and my husband is a son in Mayflower Society. Do you realize that only 3%, it was only 3% of the colonists who started the Revolutionary War? 3%.
Oh, I wasn't quite sure that he's more into the I don't remember any of my past lives. All I know is I wake up. I mean, I've always been an entrepreneur and trying to do things outside the normal way to do this. But when all this hit, I just wake up every day, just go, what else can I do to fight back? And whatever it's through, it's starting this, or like I said, through art, I can't not do it. He can't not do it. You can't not. That's part of the.
That's the secret. When you're on a mission, you can't not to do what you're called to do. That's exactly right. Yeah. So,
wow, God, it's so affirming talking to you about this. I mean, and everybody that we have on the show in one way or another, but you are really bringing some pieces of the puzzle. You got to have another amazing question for.
Oh, I've got a million of them, but I think most of them are for off camera.
Yeah.
But, I think we're.
Ask your question. I want to show you. I'm going to do a show and tell. What do you have? What's your question?
Oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin. I definitely think we need to work together, though. For sure.
You got to throw one at her. He has such great questions.
Well, but there's a background to all of it. We have to go. We have to go into all that.
When it pops up, maybe.
Sure.
Something organic. We'll figure it out. So
can I show you something?
Yeah.
Talking about art.
Well,
so we helped a client not long ago, beautiful woman who was really troubled, really blocked. And she did not understand what the flower of life is. Are you familiar with the flower of life pattern? She had no idea. We've been told, again, the dragons brought this to us, that in our protection we do sacred space every morning, every night, in every session. I set sacred space before we started, but we've been told that we need to use a shield of shungite shield within the pattern of a flower of life tied with Metatron's cube to deflect nefarious negative energies, vibrational frequencies, and to distract vibrational frequencies and to amplify the positive vibrational frequencies. So we were talking with her about this, and she's sitting there with the paper in front of her, and she started drawing. She had no idea what she was drawing. And she brought this to me. She said, "You've released an artist in me."
Wow.
She had no idea what it was.
Wow.
No idea. And she channeled that while we were doing the session. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was there on the truth tour. She drove all the way down there to give this to me. So that was just so amazing. Yeah.
Some of the stories, I mean, we had Denise Stevens on. Who are some of the folks you've met on the truth tour that you've obviously, I think Nick, but that where you've done the interviews and just, these conversations have really opened things up for you. If you care to go into that, because part of what we do is when we have people like you on the show is that you can talk about, like you were on Mark Atwood's show, and it helps people connect the dots with other, folks that are talking about these subjects, and then they hear it from a different perspective. Because some people will listen to Tarot by Janine, some people will listen to Bruce Poppy. So who else was, of significance? Not that people weren't of significance, but throw a few at us.
Well, I was just on Mark Atwood's show, and that was lovely because he's so unassuming and brash and fun and very deeply spiritual. I met him on the Boston tour, which was fabulous. I have to laugh when I first went on Lois. I've become good friends with Lois. Like you even said, "I'm going to have Lois Hermann on," and I said, "Brother." He's my brother. He's my baby brother. So anyway, when I first came on the scene at Harrisburg this time last year, when they had the first Truth Tour 1, he determined that, okay, you're kind of spiritual, so we're going to put you on last because people are really wanting the geopolitical. And so I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so we were at a VFW. They started playing heavy music when I started speaking. So I'm up there rocking out with them, doing my spiritual stuff, rocking out. Fast forward to this Truth Tour 4, they started with a spiritual. I loved it. I loved it. We started with a meditation. I was there with Laura Eisenhower. What a beautiful soul she is. Brilliant. She has so much. Her mind is, she and Nick, they were on a show together, and just
Wow.
where she's so fast, he was able to take and kind of explain, because her mind just goes so fast.
We had her on the show, and it was whimsical. She was walking around, and it was we haven't had an interview quite like her.
Yeah,
meeting her in person. She's wonderful.
And we've met her in person too. We've met many. We went down to an event in Shasta, and we met Alex Collier, Brad Olson, Michael Jaco, and of course Laura. Yeah,
Michael Jaco just the other day. Yeah, he was there at in Florida, and Laura Worley and we've become good friends. We do a lot of work together. We've been doing some work together, cross-pollinating with the type of people that she works with and that I work with. We work on different aspects of the healing process with people.
Yeah. Oh, so, I do want to bring that up, because I'm not going to say her name, but we interviewed a woman whose father practiced, he was a psychiatrist, and there was a lot of traumatizing abuse, etc. And we sent her this interview about, that we did, and we'll be sending it to you as well. And we're not going to put it out, but because it really helps. The main thing is to get her some healing, etc. Right. But what Laura said is there's a lot of people that are hearing about this stuff, and they want to speak about it. But what's really important, the reason I bring this up, is they need to get some protection and help first. Can you go into that so that people can understand it, that even though they might have a story, it's good for them, it's really important for them to get the healing and protection first. So please.
And that's the beauty of the work you're doing, is it's calling people out. The people are coming to you with their stories. And you're right, discernment is key. Not only does that person need to have their own healing, but when they tell their stories over and over, it may trigger other people. And I know that some of these people want to help by telling their story, but it could also exacerbate some of the wounds and the pain in other people. And people need to know enough to be able to reach out for help. But at the same time, hearing something over and over is only going to cause more pain. And you need to heal it first in order to be able to speak to it.
And so, I know people like Laura are busy, and then there's Kathy O'Brien. So
yeah, she's another amazing person.
So so what should people do? I mean, I know that these women can help, but I know that they're also busy. So, I mean, there might be like an overwhelming demand. So what do you suggest? I guess that's my question. Where do they start? Who do they reach out to? Now, I know that Laura Worley has a couple of amazing books. That's a great place to start, right?
Right. Yes, I'm reading her first book now. It's very well done. Very well done. And what we're doing is we need to create training. And this is part of what years ago, the guide said, you must teach. Not many people are doing what you do. You must teach. So I started a training program 5 years ago, and then have trained multiple people through the years, all virtual, all online. And last fall went through the process with a couple of people, and they would ask a question, and I'd say, well, but we don't do it that way anymore. We don't do it that way anymore. So I'm having to completely, I don't want to say scrap, but revamp the program. So it's a 5-level program so that different people at different levels can get the training that they need. That's what we're working on right now. And I want to just say that what I have come to discover is, in order to do this work, we don't do this work alone. We work as a team. It's really critical. So if people want to come for a hypnosis session, they have to go through a team clearing first. And then I can help them with hypnosis, which is there's a couple of reasons why. One, we're finding people can't see their aura anymore. They can't see, they can't connect. So my amazing team of consultants, they are communicators. I consider myself the navigator. I'm driving the session. They are the ones that are communicating with whatever they encounter, and I'm keeping them safe so that they can go into a deeper level trance to really discern what is going on. So once we clear the person working as this well-oiled team together, now the person is able to tap in and get their own messages. So talking about past lives, I've been doing past lives for almost 30 years now. 90% of people's past lives are not their own.
Well, can you go into more detail on that?
The spirit that wants to talk is the first one that comes through and tells their story. Oh, that's your past life. No, it's not. It's the past life of a spirit that's attached to or associated with the person. So once we clear all of the spirits, we listen to their stories, we validate their stories, we do a heavy ancestral clearing. Once they're all cleared safely and tucked in wherever they're supposed to go, then we can focus on the true past life of the person. And now we know it's a true past life.
Wow.
So this is why you hear all these stories of multiple people being different people. It's because the spirit's telling their story multiple times, different places. They travel around.
I've often wondered about that. That clears up a lot.
Yeah, doesn't it though?
It really does. Yeah.
Because the spirit, and here's the other big thing you've heard of people use sage. Well, the Native American culture uses sage as a part of their ceremony. And it's the smoke with prayer that is lifting the spirits into the light. If you just use sage, you're just smelling up the room and you're chasing the spirit away, and they go over there to somebody else. And then they come back. So it's what the process that I was trained by this amazing person who was so ahead of his time, Albert Marotta. I have to tell a fun story on him.
Wait, can you spell his last name?
Marotta, Albert Marotta. He's in his 80s.
Thank you.
I want to just say I was featured on the cover of the Hypnosis Journal this month. And this is blow me away because this is an old boy network that doesn't do spiritual. And I said, this is what I do. And they cited it. So he called me to congratulate me. And I was driving over to the event and I said, we're down here with this organization called Screw Big Gov. And he laughed. He said, I have a t-shirt that says, I don't need to have sex anymore. My government screws me daily.
Wow.
Hope that doesn't get you booted off of YouTube. So anyway, he's been talking to me about MK Ultra for years and the secret, the Dark Fleet in Antarctica. He's been telling me all this stuff for years. And so now here I am, his protege, doing this work. And it's just such a nice kindred connection. But he was the one that taught me about the spirit world and the spirit release stuff that I learned. And then I've taken it a couple of levels beyond.
Well, I got to say, I want to say congratulations as well. And also it's, it feels like at this time, all these struggles that we've been through and these skills or talents or whatever we've learned, they're all coming into fruition. Like we've had Lisa Schermerhorn on the show.
Oh yeah. She's my good friend.
Yeah. Exactly. She connected us. So thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
But it's like, the people I looked up to when I was a kid, they found success, if you will, in their 20s and 30s. And now it's like, those of us that are, in our quote unquote middle age or older, it's beautiful because we get to put all these pieces of the puzzle, and it's like, there's like a limitlessness now to, you know, when our success can be, and it doesn't feel like, oh, I missed my prime or any of that stuff. And so it must feel that way for you to be finding all of this coming together in your life at this time.
I know. I mean, most people are retired by now, and I'm like, I'm just getting rolling. But did you ever read the book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Yeah.
Do you remember his story? He was getting ready to retire.
Yeah,
and
please
he
feel
met
free
this gentleman. Yeah, and all of his books were published after, or most, I don't know, 80% of his work was done after he hit 65 or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So part of the message is, you know, there's a lot of people out there that may be listening that, you know, like, oh man, what do I have to contribute? You have a lot to contribute because you've been through so much, and you know, you weren't born with an iPhone in your hand. You've watched the changes. So you're an asset. You're a beautiful flower, a beautiful plant. And we need everybody that's been through that. I want them to feel useful, not useless in any way, is my point.
Well, your brain can do a trillion calculations per second, which is pretty impressive. But your soul, what it can do, that's a whole nother ballgame, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have clients that are in their 80s, and I'm so impressed with. I'm here on a mission. I know I still have something to do, and they're determined, and they are my inspiration. They're you know, just like Albert asking me now, have you had anything to do with? Have you dealt with anything? I just had a client. He's mid-80s. Just had a client. We were dealing with a jinn, and I'm like, oh, how funny. Ann and I just put a jinn back in the bottle last week. A genie. We had a genie. And Archangel Michael says, I'll take care of it. Back in the bottle. He took it away.
Wait, because we had a gentleman on our show named Gianni Salvatore, and he was talking about how the battle truly is between, you know, the good and the jinn, right? So when you say genie or jinn, can you expand on that? Because that's so funny that you said that, or maybe it's just divine intervention.
I think it's just a terminology. It's just different names for different, just like Archangel Michael is also called Lord Shiva in the Hindu religion. And I believe he might have been Zeus in mythology. You know, so they're different names. So just like the people who are so afraid of demons, what I have found is I've had them that have said, I am Lucifer. Oh, really? I've met him before. You know, and they'll stop. I'm talking with a spirit wrapped in light, and I'll say, so what's your name really? Well, it's really David, and I murdered someone, so I thought I was evil, so I thought I was Lucifer. I'm like, no, you're not. Your name is David. You have an opportunity to heal your soul. What Archangel Michael has taught me is no judgment. Discernment is different, but you cannot judge because you don't know. We don't know what really is happening. We don't. We just keep having to ask questions and help that soul to transition. So the archangels, who I work with all the time, they have so much more, infinitely more knowledge than I ever will as a corporeal being. So I rely on them. Like I said, I identify this one needs to go possibly to a place in a healing place. This one needs to go for atonement. This has got to be, you know, he's going to be held accountable. So these souls, we don't know, but they call themselves evil, and they do evil things. They do mean, nasty things because that's what they think they're supposed to do until they're given a choice. And if they're given a choice, then they have an opportunity to choose again.
So they don't even like the little gray, I think.
Yeah, small gray.
Right. And what's his name again? Meter.
They don't have names. They have numbers. They have barcode numbers.
Okay.
They have barcode numbers. So we give them names. The person who they've been with, the small gray has been with the person from the beginning. Many of them have killed themselves rather than up the voltage on the person. So we also rescue the spirits of the small grays that have killed themselves.
And they don't even know that they've had a choice. So just the fact that you're presenting to them that they have a choice blows their mind because they didn't even know they had.
That's right. Because a lot of these people who think that I've signed a contract. We had a client who signed a contract in blood at 2 years old. Seriously? A 2-year-old has not got the concept of a contract. So in her mind, she had signed a contract. No, that was coercion. That is not a contract. But even though they've signed a contract, some of these, the sorcery is what we're dealing with now that's really evil. The people who are conjuring and doing the sorcery stuff, very real. And this is part of, don't be watching the halftime show. That's all trying to do mind control. So they're conjuring, and this sort of stuff, they're looping people into and doing things that they think that they now have a contract. But if you're coerced into a contract, no, even if you have willingly signed a contract, you can get out of it. You just have to ask for forgiveness. Simple as that.
On that topic, I'm not going to say his name because we didn't say his name on the show. It's show number 50 with the little alien, and we had a 2-part session. But you've been helping this gentleman, right? The one that had unfortunately tried Adreno / and then time traveled. So you know what I'm talking about, right?
I can't speak to that specifically, but we've helped a lot of people that have had demon possessions.
Right. Got it.
For years helped with people with demonic possessions. And they're not what you really think they are. It's a perception of the person, and it is sorcery. And often, again, we're working with these beings in the light. They do the work. We just call attention that this person needs help. And so then the demon or whatever is removed. I liken it to, we do a lot of work with high vibrational frequency, be it the light, the brightest light, or high vibrational sound. Okay, light and sound, love, all those high vibe frequencies. So when you're dealing with something that is really nasty and you're sending light and love, we've actually had the reptilians tell us that the reason they don't come near humans, they use the small grays, is because our high vibrational frequency weakens them.
Okay.
They feed off of fear. That is where they get their power. The high vibration weakens them. So we stay in a light, high vibe state while we're dealing with them, and that keeps them at bay. And then when you send love and light and to them, it's kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. Then you pour water on her, I'm melting, right? It's the same sort of thing. Send light. If you go into fear, that's what they feed off of. Don't go there.
Can you tell the
keep our vibration up?
Well, speaking of that, can you, because we've had Michael Jaco on the show, can you tell the viewers the reading you got when you interacted with Michael Jaco?
He's a sweetheart.
But I mean, like, his vibration, wasn't it like you got a reading on him that was really powerful? I think that's
sure. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
He's pretty. I had to tell him that I thank him and I blame him for changing my life. He and Nick, because I was on his show and we got flooded with clients from being on his show, and I had to completely revamp my business. So I'm like, thanks and blaming you.
Right.
But yeah, he's a pretty, he's another one that is out there putting himself out there to shine a light on truth. And it takes courage to do that. It really does.
Yeah, it's not easy at times. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to cover, or how are you feeling with everything we've covered?
I'm really good, except I really need to stress protection.
Okay.
And because this sacred space, if people go to my website, loishermann.com, and subscribe to the newsletter, you will get me citing the sacred space for you. It's a little older version. I need to update it because we're constantly getting new information. But we do this every morning before we get out of bed. Before I open my eyes, I set sacred space for my space. I send it ahead into the day. I set my intention that this day is blessed and filled with joy and helping to be of service. So I set my intention for the day, and it's magical. Even though things can go a little wonky sometimes, if you keep your humor and yourself light, you can sail through just about anything. I have to tell you, there was a woman on the Truth Tour that we met on Thursday. She had pictures. She had lost her home, 3 cats and a dog in a fire. last Thursday. And she was there in borrowed clothes. Someone said, come to my closet, take whatever you want. And she was, I mean, she would get teary-eyed talking about it. She was out on the dance floor. I was dancing with her. You know, to see this woman that had been through such horrific stuff to rise above it. And that's what I'm so impressed with our clients. They have that tenacity. I know I'm here to do something, no matter the horrors that have been. And some of this stuff, the torture that they have been through is horrific, but they shift and rise above it because they know they're here on a mission. And we will collectively shift this planet. We're going to do it. We are doing it. We absolutely are doing it. And so setting the intention for your day, setting the intention at night, doing the sacred space as you're drifting off to sleep at night, and setting the intention to sleep soundly. And the clients will say, do I have to do it every day? And I'm like, no, but you don't have to brush your teeth maybe once a week. Maybe you take a shower once a month. Doesn't matter. You don't have to do it every day. It's your choice. I would suggest you do, you know? So yeah, wow. Setting sacred space is critical to keeping ourselves protected from the nefarious, from the lost souls who are looking for the light. And if you're shining brightly, now you've got these lost souls that are not necessarily mean or nefarious, but there's a reason they didn't go in the light. So now you've got them with their baggage clinging to you. And then you've also got the nefarious ones that are looking for the bright lights to take them out or to dim them, to dim their light.
Now, with regard to clearing your aura, is that something that is that a daily practice someone can do for themselves, or?
Yeah. So I was just, you know, at the Truth Tour. I was at a big expo, and I came in and I did an auric clearing on myself. And that is something that we do. Again, that's in that video as well. I give that to people as a video. We also have trainings, you know, an 8-hour modulated training, video training that we decided people need to learn how to do all this stuff. Yeah. So we're giving that, we give that out as well too. But that's a purchase training.
And that's all on your website, right?
It's all on the website.
Can you say the name one more time?
Lois Hermann with 2 N's.com. My webmaster came to me a couple months ago and said, Lois, your website is schizophrenic. I said, that's right up my alley. But, you know, 2 years ago, I was a success coach. And now I'm helping rescue the light workers. So we had to we've just modified the website a little bit to speak more with what we do. The ECA, energy clearing and alignment, is critical. As you said, we've got to clear the aura. We've got to align the chakras. The chakras are all stuck. And one of the things that we have found is a lot of the people who have had this thing they can't find the light. Mm-hmm. Their God connection is cut. So they're searching for the light. They can't find it. Right. So we're helping a lot more of them that would ordinarily have transitioned. They're still hanging around and they're confused. So we just help them, and we call someone from the light to come. Doesn't matter whatever religion. I've got cave guys that, you know, just got to call their papa, you know, to come for them. It's not about religion. It's about a being that lived a good life that went into the light that will come and help them to transition.
Wow.
Did I just
No, it's been so amazing to have you on the show, and we'd definitely love to have you back. And sure. I do want to let the viewers know that if they want to see someone who's recovered, we've done an interview with Kathy O'Brien. If they need some you know, some inspiration to watch that, because man, what she's been through and her attitude is absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah, she's amazing. You know what? And here's Albert. He said, I just bought a book from Kathy O'Brien. Do you know her? I'm like, she's going to be on the tour with. So I haven't actually personally met her yet. But
oh man, what we haven't yet either. But yeah. Well, hang around after. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something amazing from Lois, and we'll talk to you guys soon. We'll have another show coming up soon. And thank you so much, Lois. All right, take care. Bye.